name, my name is Alan Locke. I was born on September 13th, 1886, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, into a well known family. My father, Pliny Locke, obtained a law degree from Howard University, and then he became a mail clerk in Philadelphia, while my mother was a school teacher. They both were engaged at the age of 16, but they didn't marry until they were middle aged. A tragic thing happened when I was just 6 years old. I lost my father, but my mother continued to support me through her teachings. At the ethical cultural school which I attended during my younger years, they gave me the idea of they gave me and implanted with me modern ideas about education, moral principles, and human values. Near also in my younger years, I was dreadfully ill, and I received it. I was dreadfully ill, and the disease permanently weakened my heart and restricted me from doing any physical activities. I dealt with emotional time of this emotional time of me having and being weak by spending time reading books and learning how to play the violin and piano, both of which are my favorite instruments. In 1902, I attended Central High School and I graduated second in my class. After that, I studied at the Philadelphia School of Pedagogy, where I was first in my class. I then transferred to Harvard, and I completed their 4-year program in just as little as 3 years. During that time, which was the year 1907, I was elected to Phi Beta Kappa. I also won the school's most distinguished honor, the, the Baldwin Prize, for an essay in English. It was a remarkable achievement, especially for me, because I was an African American during this highly separated time. At that time, I was also named a Rhodes Scholar, someone who receives a scholarship to Oxford for 2 to 3 years, and that's just what I did. I was the first African American chosen for this award, and I set sail to England. I received a bachelor's degree from Oxford in literature, and then I moved to Germany to advance my work in philosophy at the University of Berlin. In 1912, I was appointed an assistant professor of English at Howard. At that time, I was very angry at the board of trustees because they did not approve my idea on courses of comparative race relations, I should say. And I then was appointed for 1 year as an Austin teaching fellow at Harvard. 2 years later, I received my doctorate and I returned to Howard as a full professor of philosophy. I was head of my department until I retired in 1953. This was the hard time of my life. During those times, I made many books and I contributed to many publications. One of the publications I contributed to was The Opportunity, Journal of a Negro Life and Survey Graphic. And during that time, I talked about the latter of the title and of the Harlem Renaissance. Another publication I created was The New Negro, an interpretation in 1925. This outstanding collection was made of leading African Americans with fiction and poetry and drama and essays by not just me, but others as well, describing the change and the state of relations in our race in the United States. I served as the secretary and editor for a newly established publication called Association in Negro Folk. During that time, I published 9 bronze booklets, which were written by leading American scholars. I wrote 2 of these, actually. The first one was called Negro Art, Past, Present, and the Negro and His Music. A third one I edited, I should say, was The Negro and Art. And this was a pictorial record of the Negro and artists of the Negro theme in arts. I continued my work in philosophy, and I promoted to help, excuse me, I promoted to help young artists and young writers so that way they can live their dreams as I did mine. I co-edited with Bernard Stern, a excuse me. I co-edited with Bernard Stern a book entitled When Peoples Meet, a study in race and cultural context. And this examined the dominant and minority populations in various countries around the world. By the mid-20th century, I was a member of the editorial board of the American Scholar, and I was the first American elected to be president of the American Association for Adult Education in 1945. During that time, I also served as a visiting professor of philosophy at the University of Wisconsin. The following year, I was a visiting professor at the New School for Social Research in what became my second home for numerous years. In New York, they held a similar appointment the next year at the City College of New York, or the CCNY. I began teaching at both Howard and the CCNY after 1948. I then was determined to have my final achievement created, and that was to secure and establish a Phi Beta Kappa chapter at Howard. I then retired that year and was awarded an honorary doctorate by Howard. I permanently moved to New York City and continued to work on the magnum opus, which is the highest achievement. One of my achievements, the magnum opus, was based on my work that is entitled The Negro in American Culture. And this was a study of the contributions African Americans to the American society. Unfortunately, my illness came back. I had recurrent heart problems that returned in the spring of 1954, causing my death on June 9th, 1954 in New York. I had an unfinished manuscript which was completed by Margaret Just Butcher. As I leave you today, I want you to remember, your dream is possible and no one can stop you. Thank you.